Hey, say hello if you're here with me. I'd love to see you. Just checking in. Hi. I'm going to assume three possibilities right now. One, you're here live, or two, you're watching the replay, or three, I'm sitting here doing this all by myself. So if you can hear me, leave a comment so that I know that I'm not alone out here talking into open space. And if you're here live, let's chat back and forth because talking to a camera feels really weird. All right. We're not going to rehash the whole episode of this that we had come out yesterday, this week. You can watch it or read the blog. The link is in the description. What I thought I'd touch on tonight is some of the things that maybe didn't get mentioned or talked about too much. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Change often involves grief, even when the change is good. The coaches and I discussed this before on another episode, and just when we're chatting around how grief can show up in all kinds of ways, and it always shows up when it comes to change, whatever that change might be. Clients are often surprised by this, and they may not even name it grief, but it's there. They think that if something is healthier, then they should feel excited, not sad or disoriented or tired. But when you stop coping the way that you used to, when you stop being the version of you that held that thing, that habit, that whatever, it might be a good loss, but something is still lost. We hear things like, why do I feel worse when I'm doing the right thing? Or why does this feel harder now? And that's because you're no longer using the strategies that got you through before. Even if those strategies weren't sustainable, even if those strategies aren't the ones that are going to get you to the next level, there's still a piece of you that you had to let go of, a piece of you that you had to leave behind. For example, one of my clients was trying to stop overworking. They realized that they were exhausted, burned out, and constantly on edge. So they finally started setting boundaries. They started leaving work at the right time instead of working late for no overtime. They stopped answering emails at night or even sitting up late in bed answering those emails or getting that one last bit done. Saying no to extra responsibility that they weren't supposed to be doing that was above their pay grade, but that they had always just jumped in to help to be a part of the team. On paper, all of those things that they were putting in place were healthy changes, and they were being supported by it at work. And nobody was looking down at them. Nobody was beating them up for it. Nobody was commenting about these bad things or so called bad things. But a few weeks in, they started feeling quite unsettled and a little anxious. And they said something to me, not exactly this, but something like, I don't get it. I'm doing the right thing. Nobody seems worried about it. So why do I feel bad? What they didn't expect was that they were grieving the version of themselves who felt needed. That those extras that they would put in made them feel valued. And by that, doing those things, they felt safe by being busy. Overworking wasn't just a habit, it was a way for them to feel like they belonged, to feel worthy. The deeper issue that when coping strategy goes away, even though it wasn't sustainable, something was lost. So, although they were grateful that they were taking this time back, they were recovering, they were feeling better, it was still something they had to grieve, something they had to say goodbye to before they could move on to that new part of themselves. And if no one tells you to expect that, it's very easy to think that you're failing when you're actually in the middle of a really big change. Because once you've dealt with that, you're on the other side. You've created this new identity, this new unstoppable you. Another thing that clients don't expect. Before we move on, I just want to know, does this resonate with anyone? Has anyone ever experienced something like this? Because I know I have, and as I said, this client in particular has, and I've seen different variations of this with most of my clients when they're implementing a big change. So let me know in the comments if this is something that that maybe you have felt or that you know of someone who has gone through something like that. Hello, Happiness Igniter. Nice to see you in the comments. Another thing that clients often don't expect is how messy real change feels. There's usually a moment where people say, well, something along the lines of, I thought I was past this, or I shouldn't still be struggling with this. I've already dealt with this. Why is this still here? But going back to an old pattern doesn't erase your progress. It usually means it's your default, it's your baseline. So when you get tired or stressed or overwhelmed, because even though you've dealt with the previous things and you moved past them, that doesn't mean your life is going to be perfect. You're still going to have hard days. You're still going to have hard things happen. And sometimes if you're not proactive at dealing with those things, then you might slide back into your coping mechanism that is your baseline. And that's not saying that you failed, okay? If this resonates, let me know in the comments that this is something that you've dealt with or that you've seen. Drop a yes and let me know. Um, and you know what? Even if you don't type a yes, I'm going to assume that you're nodding along. So let's just say that you are. Okay. So that's important for you to know that you did not fail. This is something that we all deal with. And sometimes it's okay to fall back on some of those coping mechanisms for a short period of time. But once you've embodied the new you, the new identity, you're going to bounce back into that new identity faster. And then when you've developed even further the newer identity, you still might fall back to this baseline, but you'll bounce back to this new identity a lot faster. And then again and again and again. And so won't take nearly as long to bounce back. And for some people, it's a matter of thoughts. One of my clients was dealing with this and she couldn't believe it, and then as she embodied herself, she one day came to me and said, the first thought was her baseline coping mechanism, and I'm not going to say what that is just to keep her privacy in place, but her baseline coping mechanism, and she went to reach for that, and then as she was reaching for that coping mechanism, she realized what she was doing, and she took a deep breath, took a pause, and then her next uh, thought, her next reaction was one more in line with the person that she has become. So it can be that quickly. Once you've done the work, once you've gotten there. That's not to say that she didn't deal with going back and forth for sometimes staying in her default for weeks. But at the point that she talked to me about it and the point that I'm sharing with you, we had been working together for several months, and she was so pleased with herself for reporting that she did not stay. Yes, she did go back, but she did not stay. The very next thought, she was back to who she was. And that's a win. That's a huge win. And that's something that often clients don't think about. And then they think that they're failing, but they're not. It's just a matter of working through it. Now, I mentioned with my clients that we work through these things and we've been going through different results, and it's the same with the other coaches, and even Counselor Shelley's talked about some of these things and dealing with the grief and processing the emotion so that it doesn't creep back as much. And then also the default mechanisms and bouncing back to your new identity. All of those things are normal. But one of the hardest beliefs that clients come in contact with is the idea of needing support, meaning that there's something wrong with them. There isn't. We all need support sometimes. We were meant to be a tribal. And sometimes your tribes are big, sometimes your tribes are small. But we all need support in some way. And there's nothing wrong with you if you need support. It's important. Clients will often say, I know, but shouldn't I be able to do this on my own? Humans don't change in isolation. We never have. This is coming straight out of Counselor Shelley's mouth, and I know that she researches everything, and her training has pushed things a lot further for all of us. And that's exactly what she said. Humans don't change in isolation. We never have. So, my friends, support isn't a shortcut. It's the environment change happens in. So, getting the support that you need is important. Getting the support you need doesn't mean that you're weak. Helping yourself is the epitome of strength because not facing the problem, that's the hard thing. All right. I'm going to close out with that because I don't want to take up too much of your time. And if anyone has any questions and you didn't get a chance to ask live because you missed the live or whatever else the case might be, make sure you drop it in the comments, or you can always email us hello@betteryou.coach, and we can answer any of your questions there. If you watch the episode and feel like it explains something that you've been struggling with, but also felt a little unsure about what comes next, that's normal. This live wasn't about giving you all the answers. It was about letting you know that the confusion, the backsliding, the questions, those are all part of real change. You're doing it, and I believe in you. If any of this feels personal, you don't have to hold it alone. If you want to talk, you can reply or reach out anytime. There's no fixing because you are not broken. It's just a conversation. And if today all you needed was to hear that you're not broken and that you matter, please always remember that. You matter. So please